What if Ford told you they once built a car powered by a nuclear reactor? Or designed one with just 2 wheels that stayed upright using giant spinning gyroscopes? We all think of Ford as the company behind classics like the Mustang, F-150, and the Model T. But buried deep in their history are some truly strange rides. Cars so odd, you'd swear they came from a science fiction novel. Let's count down the 9 weirdest cars Ford ever made. And believe me, some of these are real head-scratchers. Car number 9. The Ford X100. In 1953, Ford turned 50 and built a car to show off their big ideas for the future. They called it the X100, and it had over 50 wild features. Some were ahead of their time: heated seats, a car phone, buttons for just about everything. But then it got weird. The glove box had a built-in electric shaver, because apparently showing up to work with stubble was a bigger issue than steering. The roof was made of plastic and would close automatically when it sensed rain, though nobody was sure the roof itself could even handle the water. It had 8 miles of wiring. That's just in one car. The inside was packed with dials, switches, and tubes, like something from an old sci-fi movie. And yes, it could lift itself for tire changes. The X100 toured the world, wowed the press, then disappeared into a museum where it probably still smells like ozone and melted circuits. Car number 8. The Ford Corrida. Let's talk about 1976. Ford's Italian design partner, Gyro, took a Ford Fiesta and thought, what if this thing had gull-wing doors and looked like an orange bug? So they built the Karita. It was bright, traffic cone orange with a nose like it was sniffing the future. The doors folded in the middle like a Transformers toy. The dashboard, a stack of cubes. The seats, weird black and orange things that looked more like Halloween decorations than furniture. And while it looked cool from far away, it was built on a tiny Fiesta platform, meaning all the wild style was sitting on a cheap economy car frame. The Karita never went into production, but rumor has it those fold-up doors may have inspired Tesla's Falcon wing design decades later. If true, we're still not sure if that's good or bad. Car number 7, the Ford Tempo AWD. From the outside, the 1984 Tempo looked plain. Just another mid-size sedan, right? Wrong. Ford wanted it to be the most aerodynamic car in America. They spent millions making it smooth, but then forgot to make it good on gas. The engine was loud, shaky, and had less power than a hairdryer. It was so rough at idle that people thought the engine was breaking. They also added a 4-wheel drive option. Sounds cool, right? Not really. It added weight, broke often, and had to be held in place with wires. Literal wires. Like something from a backyard mechanic's toolkit. The Tempo wasn't fast, it wasn't comfortable, and it wasn't cheap. But somehow, people bought them. Lots of them. Which proves this quote: if you build something boring enough, people will still buy it, just to avoid surprises. Car number 6. The Ford Probe. In the late 80s, Ford had a shocking idea. Replace the Mustang with a Mazda-based front-wheel drive coupe. That car became the Ford Probe. And Mustang fans, they weren't happy. People protested. Some even cried in dealerships. Ford quickly backed off and gave the car a different name, but the damage was done. The name didn't help either. Probe? Seriously? It sounded more like a medical exam than a car. Even though it had pop-up headlights and a turbo option, nobody really connected with it. It felt too soft, too smooth, too wrong. They kept it around until 1997, but the Probe was always remembered as the car that almost replaced an American icon.
Car number 5.
The Ford Gyron. In 1961, Ford wanted to do something bold, so they built a car with just 2 wheels. How did it stay upright? Gyroscopes. Massive spinning ones that were supposed to keep the car balanced, except they cost more than a house. So Ford cheated a little and added training wheels that dropped down when it stopped. It looked like a spaceship, had a dial instead of a steering wheel, and the seats were so close you'd be sitting shoulder to shoulder. Only one was made, and when it burned in a fire a year later, nobody seemed eager to build another. Today, it's just a strange footnote in car history, a reminder that sometimes 4 wheels really are better than 2.
Car number 4.
The Ford Indigo. This one's for the speed freaks. In 1996, Ford decided to turn an Indy car into a street car. The Indigo had no roof, barely any windshield, and a 6.0-liter V12 made by combining 2 V6s. Seriously, it looked like a race car because it basically was one. Scissor doors, a tiny cockpit, and carbon fiber everywhere. The speed was real, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, but the comfort, not so much. It was scary to drive, even for professionals. Ford thought about selling a few hundred, but wisely said no. Only 2 were built. One of them went into a video game. The other probably made everyone who drove it sweat bullets.
Car number 3.
The Ford Big Red. Imagine a semi-truck that ran on jet fuel. That's Big Red. Built in 1964, this giant truck had a turbine engine that could run on pretty much anything flammable. Gas, kerosene, maybe even whiskey. It was 96 feet long and came with a full kitchen, bathroom, and TV. The inside was nicer than most houses at the time. It moved like a spaceship and sounded like one too. The engine spun at 30,000 RPM and could suck in birds if they got too close. People loved it. But it cost way too much and guzzled fuel like there was no tomorrow, so Ford shelved it after a few years. It was found decades later, restored by a collector, and yes, it still runs.
Car number 2.
The Mustang II. This one's strange for a different reason. In the 70s, gas prices shot up and emissions rules got tighter. So Ford built a new Mustang. But instead of power and muscle, it had a 4-cylinder engine and was built on a Pinto frame. The Pinto, you know, the one that caught fire. The design was awkward, the engines were weak, and yet people bought them. Over 1 million. Ford even threw in a small V8, but it barely made 139 horsepower. Not exactly heart-pounding stuff. Years later, most Mustang fans pretend the Mustang II never existed. But it did, and it sold. Which just goes to show, sometimes the name is all people care about.
Car number 1.
The Ford Nucleon. And now, the strangest of them all. The Nucleon, a car powered by a nuclear reactor. Ford unveiled it in 1958, dreaming of a future where cars didn't need gas. Instead, they'd run on uranium. The cabin was shoved all the way forward to keep the driver as far away from the nuclear reactor in the trunk as possible. When it ran out of nuclear fuel, no big deal. Just swap out the core at your local reactor station. Sounds easy, right? They never built a working version, just a model. But still, they were serious. Today it sits in a museum and probably makes everyone glad it never hit the road.